Before cozy games were defined as a genre, they were games that we played to unwind after school. Games were an escape as kids, like they are now. We played them to relax, to forget about the fights our parents had, to not worry about the test we had to take on Friday. On my worst days, I didn't want a game that stressed me. I wanted a game that made me feel like I was home. So, is the cozy genre a new invention, or is it something we have had and experienced but we couldn't put a name to? Cozy games have turned into a cornerstone of the indie scene, but how can we define a cozy game? They aren't just low stakes, it's not just farming or fishing, it's an emotion. Cozy games are less about what you do and more about how they make you feel while doing it. They're gentle and unrushed. It's about presence over pressure. There's often no fail state. There isn't really any big punishment. No one is watching you or judging you. It's just you and the world you got lost in. These games reward small routines like growing something, cleaning up a space, or caring for a character. Just existing in a world that's soft around the edges. This is why they found the new wave of popularity in recent years. People are tired. Games that let you slow down and just exist have never felt more essential. I'm not saying there aren't stressful parts to these games, missing a timed dialogue with the character, Sims dying, forgetting to feed your Nintendo dog, but these are painted with a softer stroke. They aren't as punishing as other titles are. Cozy games have been given more and more acclaim over the years. I think it's safe to say that games like Stardew Valley and Animal Crossing New Horizons have done a lot of the heavy lifting in that regard. Other games have capitalized on that success, that feeling those games were able to capture, bottle, and sell. Cozy Grove, Spiritfarer, and Slime Rancher are other great examples of games that left you with that zen feeling, like the burden of adult life has slightly lifted off your shoulders, for even a moment. Steam, YouTube, and TikTok often gave fuel to this genre's fire. Whole communities have formed around sharing these comfort games. People post their quiet little farms, their in-game morning routines, their perfectly decorated sim houses. These aren't just games anymore, they've become self-care shared in a digital space. Indie development has also had a big impact on the genre as a whole. Without the pressure of things like AAA expectations, smaller studios have the freedom to create new games that prioritize mood over mechanics. Games that aren't afraid to slow down. Often these aren't about winning, but connecting with characters and with ourselves. And people responded. This is probably due to the fact that the world outside the screen has gotten stressful and more unpredictable. The pandemic also played a huge factor in the popularity of cozy games. When we were isolated, uncertain, and overwhelmed, cozy games offered structure to our what felt like crumbling lives. And these games are still popular. Today, there's an entire subculture built around the genre. Creators, Pinterest boards, even cozy-focused game showcases like the 2025 Wholesome Direct have proven that. But before the boom of this genre, there were games doing exactly what cozy games do now. Games like the original Animal Crossing, Harvest Moon, and Chibi Robo, I argue can be spoken about in the same breath as the titans of the cozy game genre that we know today. These games offer that same sense of ease and tranquility that we have come to know from the category. I spent countless days and nights digging for gyroids in Animal Crossing, walking back and forth over and over my town just to watch my villagers live their lives. Or decorating shirts at the Able Sisters shop. Paying off Tom Nook's debt never felt urgent. Half the time you never even paid it off. There were no deadlines, no time constraints. The letters you got from Mom gave you a sense of belonging in this pixelated world. Whether it was fishing or finding fossils for blathers, there was always something to do and you made the choice to do it. Not a quest or objective, it gave you agency, something you rarely got as a child. You couldn't choose your bedtime or choose what you had for dinner. The house was too loud and that was out of your hands. But in these games, you decided everything. You had a sense of control, even if it was just in this small corner of your life. You could name the town, you could rearrange your furniture and give flowers to the villagers who actually remembered your name. Your decisions mattered, even if it was just where to plant a peach tree. I think this sense of agency is also echoed in the cozy genre today. You, for the most part, make your own path, set your own goals. These early games weren't about beating the final boss or unlocking the ultimate weapon. They were about just being. They gave us space to wander, to tend to things, to take care of pets, and to take care of ourselves. Harvest Moon was another great example. You weren't saving the world or anything, you were watering turnips, milking cows, and doing stupid stuff like giving your crush a jar of homemade jam. Seasons passed as you played, festivals came and went, and there was a rhythm to it all, and you moved at your own pace. The game gave the smallest acts, like pulling weeds or brushing a horse, planting seeds, meaning. Chibi Robo was a tiny cleaning robot in a quiet house. He was just trying to make a family happy. It was strange and it was tender at the same time. Even the act of tidying up carried an emotional weight you could feel on your chest. The scale was small, it was just a house after all, but the feeling was huge. These weren't called cozy games back then. They were just games that felt like a safe space where you were home. The games gave you a chance to care. Not only that, but they planted the seeds for an entire genre. Today's cozy games may have evolved in how they look or play out entirely, but those old roots are still there, and the gyroids, and the chores, and the joy of just existing. And there's something about nostalgia as a whole that feels cozy. It's not just remembering, it's about revisiting and stepping back into a time when things felt simpler. Times that were safer, or maybe just slower. It's the emotional equivalent of slipping into a cozy sweater or hearing the startup noise of your favorite console. When we look back on these games that we played with sticky fingers after school, in bed with the glowing screen of a Game Boy lighting up the covers, we remember not only the gameplay, but we remember the feeling and the comfort. Nostalgia hits the same notes as cozy games do. It isn't about perfection, it's about that familiarity, about finding the warmth in the places we forgot we missed, like a menu chime or a loading screen. When life gets overwhelming, we crave the past that we once experienced. We replay the old games and boot up ROMs. We go digging through boxes to find our dusty DS. Not because the games are necessarily better, but because things were different back then. Many of us just want to feel that old version of ourselves again, the kid who found joy in planting stupid pixelated carrots. Cozy games now, they take that warmth of that old school simplicity and wrap it in a fresh coat of paint. They don't just create a new comfort, they replicate old ones. The tone and the pace or the kindness built into their design, it's like a mirror into how we remember the games we loved growing up. They know what we want, not just fun or quick dopamine, but familiarity. We want a sense of safety. That fleeting feeling of being 10 years old again curled up with a handheld. Nostalgia and cozy games are linked, they are reflections of each other. They both remind us that slowing down is okay, that a sense of gentleness has value. Things we loved when we were younger still matter. They remind us we can go back to those times, even if just for a moment. The genre has turned into something larger, more visible than ever. This quiet corner of gaming has carved out its own niche. It's proudly worn like a badge by developers and players. But many of these cozy games simply take that success and goodwill of some of these titles and put forth a subpar game for a quick buck. A lot of the games will have a shallow concept and staple on a farming mechanic to it and label it as cozy. So, like every subsect of gaming, it has its problems. The heart of these games, though, when done right, hasn't changed. Whether you're farming in Stardew Valley or just rearranging furniture and unpacking, the same warmth pours out of them. The gentle pace, the low stakes, high comfort loop. The feeling that nothing is going after you and everything is inviting you to stay. The world is heavy, and sometimes all we want is to water our plants, pet a pixelated cat, and feel okay for a little while. Games give us permission to rest and to breathe. The best games don't just feel cozy though, they feel meaningful. They wrap emotions into their code. Games like Spiritfarer, where a cozy feeling meets grief, or a short hike where exploration is slow and meaningful. They're a reminder that not every game has to be beaten or won. Sometimes it's enough just to exist without goals or expectations. It's okay to be present in a world that asks nothing of you. Cozy games aren't new. They've always been there in the background, patiently waiting to be rediscovered when you needed it the most. Thank you for spending some time with me talking about these games. If you had a game that brought you any comfort back then or now, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like or maybe even subscribe. Until next time, this has been Save State by SavePoint Sage.